And welcome to TechNow, the web series for ServiceNow builders, developers, and admins across a wide variety of Now Platform topics. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior Developer Evangelist at ServiceNow. Been with the company for about 10 years. I think it'll be 10 years in June, more or less. But was a customer for a couple of years before that. I've done implementations in ITSM. I was in professional services, now called customer outcomes, pre-sales, enablement. It's been all over the map, and I am happy to be here today. The short answer is I bring a lot of experience, mainly around the platform, custom applications, and integrations, and look forward to talking to you today. I'm not the main presenter, though. We have more people on this webinar, and I would like to also introduce Craig Stepp. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. I'm Craig Stepp, and I am the manager of Cloud Labs. And if you don't know what that is, I actually help spin up all the instances for Knowledge Conference, which we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I've been specializing in cloud automation and been around here since 2014, so I'm coming up on 6 years. And, of course, I've been helping Chuck out since 2016 on this, so about 4 years now, right?
You've been helping me out a lot longer than that, but that's a story for another time.
That's right. So anyway, I'm into podcasting, photography, Linux, all that good stuff. And without further ado, I'll pass it along to Jeremy.
Hey folks, Jeremy Duncan here, platform architect on the solution innovation team here at ServiceNow. I've been here about 7 months, so finally made it to the mothership. But I've been developing, architecting ServiceNow for about 8 years now, so pre-Aspen. Been a customer of ServiceNow, also consulted for a company for ServiceNow, and now get to work here, get the pleasure to work here. So I spoke at Knowledge, attended a knowledge event several times. As Craig mentioned, we do have some new news around that. So stick around, learn more about that. Just a fun fact about me, I am a certified reserve police officer for the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee. Been doing that for about 7 years. So I get to code during the day and go fight crime at night. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to today's presenter, Chris.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, so my name is Chris Faulkner. I've been around ServiceNow for about 8 years now. Kind of go way back there with Chuck. We used to be on professional services, what's called customer outcomes now. And then became an SC. And ServiceNow has sent me around the world. I lived in Sydney for a while, in Singapore. Now I'm back here in San Diego. 8 years later, still loving this stuff. So it's great to be on this podcast because I've been consuming this for years. I'm a big fan of TechNow. So it's nice to finally contribute. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. We appreciate it very much. All right, let's get on with our agenda. Today we'll be talking, we did our introductions. Chris is going to introduce you to what is the Now Platform CI/CD and why you want to use it. We'll go into a demo. You get to see how it works within the platform. A lot of great stuff. Don't want to steal his thunder. And we will have Q&A. Just a reminder, if we don't get your Q&A, put the Q&A, watching live, put the Q&A in that Q&A panel. We'll do our best to answer these as we go. But if we don't get them all by the end of this hour, we will be cross-posting those back to the community. So give us a day or so to answer up all those questions, check with the subject matter experts, and we will be posting those back. You'll get an email that says, hey, we've got your question, we got your answer, here's a link or links. If you happen to ask more than one, right back to those. So don't think we're forgetting about you and don't love you. We do indeed love you very much. In fact, we want to also remind you that we have the Orlando broadcast happening this Thursday, March 19th, just 2 days from the time we're airing this. If you're watching this, and then go back to the on-demand webinars from the events page on ServiceNow.com. You can catch it there if you're watching this after that. But we encourage you, we invite you to come along with us to see the keynotes of what's new in the Orlando release. This is being recorded March 17th, 2020. The live broadcast for this is March 19th, 2020. So don't want to confuse you on the dates. Tuesday, Thursday, done. Join us there. And then afterwards, after the keynote, we have spotlights for the different products, whether it's ITSM or CSM or platform, whatever you want. You can go deeper into that with demos, with discussions, with the people who bring you those products. Lots and lots of good stuff. Of course, there's way more stuff for that. We look forward to seeing you there. And check that out. Also on the docket, we did mention Knowledge 2020. This is our big conference every year. And the news, if you haven't already seen it, is we are going digital because of the current virus situation with COVID-19, the coronavirus that's happening all around the world and causing people to stay indoors and lock their shutters and go virtual and use webinars. It's a different reality we face now. And we have adjusted to that quite well. If anybody can pull off a digital conference, it is ServiceNow. We've already got the technology means to do this. So we will be delivering this. Look for more news and details about that. So although it says Orlando, Florida, it's going to be a virtual Orlando. I'm not sure how we're going to get to the amusement park, but we'll answer that another time. How we deliver this content, we are still putting together the workshops. We're still putting together the speaker sessions. All of this stuff is going to happen just in a different format. So look for news about that. You can find out more, including an FAQ, over at knowledge.servicenow.com. So stay tuned there, and we will get you information as we have it. Also want to invite you to go over to the Success Center at servicenow.com/success, wherever you are on your ServiceNow journey, whether you are just starting out and you want to know the best way to implement a coherent, accurate, cohesive CMDB, or you are an old veteran from 2006, been doing this for a long time, and you want to find out what the best way to do your upgrades is, or how you can observe technical best practices. Lots of great information over on the Customer Success Center. There's even an app that you can just check a few boxes, and it will give you prescriptive information on what you need to do. Great stuff. Go over there, servicenow.com/success. Also want to encourage, since this is targeted to developers and builders and admins, developer.servicenow.com. I just had to do that because it's one of those things you do when you mention a web.
I saw it coming.
It's just habit now.
Yeah.
You can get a free personal developer instance, use it as a sandbox to test things out, learn about the latest features before you do your upgrade on your production instances and your subprods. You can get one early. You can get early access to whatever the release is. For example, Orlando is now out, but hey, the developers had access to it 6 weeks ago. So not a bad deal. You can do that all for free. All of this is for free. Developer.servicenow.com, training plans, documentation, and it's been refaced in about mid-March. So if you haven't seen it, go over, take a look. Give us your feedback. What do you think of the new navigation, the new layout, the way things are expressed right on the homepage? You can tell about your personal developer instance status and activate plugins. Lots of great stuff. Very easy to use. Invite you to go take a look at that. And without any more commercial breaks, let's turn it over to Chris for why we came here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck. All right. So I'll go ahead and talk about what we're going to cover today. Here's a safe harbor slide. A lot of this stuff is Orlando, and we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up in Paris. But just keep in mind that a lot of the stuff is subject to change, all that good stuff. So what we're going to look at today is what we're calling now a platform CI/CD. So a lot of people know a few releases ago, we came out with a ability to integrate with Git. And it's somewhat limited, but so now for Orlando, we've made a lot of improvements. So now instead of, the old school way of manually taking update sets and migrating from one instance to the next, now what we've done is really taken advantage of a lot of the DevOps type practices like CI/CD, which is continuous integration, continuous deployment. And we've opened up the platform to be able to leverage that technology, which is it's awesome. And I think this is going to open up a lot of doors as far as like the efficiency for developing and deploying and getting stuff out there rapidly. So for Orlando, what we've done first off is we got support for local enterprise Git repositories. So what that is it allows, what we do is using the mid server, you can actually declare mid server and use that to use an on-premise enterprise Git repository. So that's a big showstopper for a lot of our larger customers because they've got IP requirements and things like that that require them to have their own enterprise Git repo on-prem. So now you can actually leverage that. So that's a big one. Also, we have a thing called what we're calling selective commits. So previously, when you were in Studio and you wanted to push your application out to over to Git and commit your code, it was basically all or nothing. So what you had to do was you had to commit the entire application so everybody would stop working, and it was kind of disruptive. So what we've done now is you can actually, each developer can, when they want to commit their code, choose which files, which things they want to commit. So what this does is it causes a lot of it's less disrupting, and it enables everybody to sort of keep developing as each other's committing their code. Collision avoidance, what this is really is just so when you have multiple developers on the same instance working in the same application, it's all tied to the same Git repository. So whenever one person's working on a file, you don't want another person coming in and making changes to that file before you've had a chance to commit it to source control. So we've added some collaboration capabilities in there to help deal with that. And another big one is merging in Git. So before, a lot of you may know, we didn't allow you to actually merge branches in Git and then bring it back into ServiceNow. Now you can do that. So that opens up a lot of doors to be able to use source control the way it's supposed to be used. So now the way we are enabling a lot of the automation, all this is what we have is CI/CD REST APIs, as well as IntegrationHub spokes. So what that means is we've made it where you can use third-party tools like Jenkins, where you can actually orchestrate everything from testing to deployment, plugins, activating plugins, doing ATF tests, those kind of things, using third-party tools. And then also we've made IntegrationHub spokes available, which is what we'll do a little demo of today. IntegrationHub spokes that you can also do all this automation with. And for Paris, what we're looking to come out with is Git repository support for global scope. So currently, when you're using Git repositories, you can only do it with custom custom scoped applications. So for Paris, we're going to open that up to global scope. Now, the reason that we don't allow global scope to be done with Git repositories is simply because right now, whenever you bring an application in from Git into your instance, it essentially uninstalls your entire application and then reinstalls a fresh copy from Git. And you can imagine if it was a global application and you've got some very critical global files and records in your application, and for whatever mistake might happen, you might accidentally delete a very critical global file. It could be disruptive to the instance. So what we're introducing in Paris is it's delta loading. So instead of uninstalling or reinstalling the entire application, we just bring the delta changes in from Git. So that way you're not risking wiping away a lot of global files that you might need. So just a little bit of background as to why that is. But keep in mind that even though you can't use global scope with your Git repository, you can still use it with these CI/CD APIs. So you can still publish you can still create an application, a global scoped application in Studio, and you can still push that up to using your application repository, push it up through, when I say App Repo, I mean the store that every customer has. So you have your own, each customer essentially has their own application repository where your applications go. So say you publish it from your dev instance, then that's why when you go to your prod instance, you see your application show up because you're sharing this application repository. So you can still leverage that with global scoped apps. Okay. All right. So
Chris, before we go on, quick question. Chris, before we go on, real quick question that I know is going to come up. We've got now platform CI/CD. We've had a DevOps application for a release or two. Can you speak real quickly to that?
Yeah, definitely. So the DevOps application, DevOps Enterprise application, is application in the store that we've introduced. And what that does, it really helps manage a lot of your DevOps processes outside of ServiceNow. Currently is what it does. It uses Agile 2.0, change management, gives you a lot of visibility into the process. So that's been there. And then actually there's a lot of improvements being made for Orlando in that as well. So what's going to happen is what I'm talking about here is actually developing in the platform. So what the future is going to hold is that DevOps enterprise application that's out is going to tie in directly with this, the better together, single platform story. We've actually already have now what we call Now on Now internally. So our own Surf team is using the capabilities I'm going to show today, and they've already tied it in with that DevOps enterprise application where basically everything's working together. So whenever you can tie your stories, like your Agile 2.0 stories, directly to a commit, and then it goes into GitHub and all that stuff, and then you've got your change management process. All of it's seamlessly tied together. So yeah, that's a good question, Chuck. That's I think we're going to see a lot of good stuff in that. Another plug for Knowledge 20. One of the sessions we're going to do is actually having the Surf team share what they've done, how they've done that whole end-to-end process, DevOps process, using, again, what I'm going to show you today, as well as the DevOps enterprise application. So make sure you check that out as well.
Excellent. So what? Just to summarize, they are not mutually exclusive. They actually work better together, like you said. It's A or B or A and B. It just works great. Wonderful.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so what I'll go ahead and do now is I will share my screen for the demo. So go ahead and share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Waiting for it. Waiting for it. And there we go. Wait. There. Got it.
Got it? Okay. All right, cool. So one of the demo today is there's going to be a deployment process going from, developer developing and development instance onto a test instance abroad, doing testing and using these CI/CD capabilities. So what I want to do before I actually get started in the flow is just walk you through the different systems I have up now, just to give you a little preview and make sure so you understand what's going on here. So here I've got my browser open and I'm logged in as Neha, who's a developer here. And actually, this is named after Neha, one of our engineers. She runs the engineering team that built a lot of the stuff you're going to see. Without our engineers at ServiceNow, everything's nothing but PowerPoints and prototypes. They make it real. So they're just amazing engineering teams we have. So she's going to be the developer.
Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in a little bit? We had somebody saying they're having trouble seeing the entire screen.
Sure.
All right. I didn't want you to go too far without you just zoom in some.
There we go.
How's that?
125 should be good.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I'm in a development instance here. So this is Neha in a dev instance, and this is where I'm going to do the development in Studio and all that good stuff. And then what I'm going to do is once she's done developing, she's going to commit the code, and it's going to go into a Git repository. So here's GitHub. I've got GitHub open. Are you seeing GitHub on the screen now? Just make sure we're in sync.
I am. Yep.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Just make sure we're all in sync here. Make sure everything's in real time. All right. So here's the GitHub. So this is where the code's going to go from the ServiceNow instance into Git. And now I'm also going to have it where we've got a test and a prod instance. So here's the test instance. It's sitting here waiting for ATF to run. It's test. And we have a prod instance. So this is where we're going to this is going to be installed, and we're also going to make the request to actually publish the application to prod. So the way all this stuff is tied together, so what you're looking at here, this form, this little deployment request here, and as well as this flow, you open up Flow Designer, you see this flow. Keep in mind this stuff, the form and this flow is a scoped application that I've created in order to demonstrate these various IntegrationHub spokes that we've released. The reason that I've created this application, which I'm going to put on share, by the way, as well. So I think we may be able to put that in the description on the YouTube or the podcast description. But essentially, I've created this scoped application to orchestrate this end-to-end flow to give you an idea of how it all works. So for Orlando, what's actually coming out of the box, as long as you have the IntegrationHub starter pack installed, is these flows. So here's the spokes, the IntegrationHub spokes that's coming out of the box. So we weren't able to build any like pre-configured flows and Flow Designer and any pre-configured way to actually just get you completely started. We've given you these spokes that you can use to build your own flows. So for example, you can see I can apply changes from source control, activate plugins, instance scans. I've got install app, install application with scope, all that good stuff, and then ATF tests as well. So these are all the things that we can do in Flow Designer. And also just a little heads up that it's much easier to get started if you use subflows. So we also have these in the actions, have these as actions, but there's a little bit more manual work that you have to do. So you might, just for a heads up, it's much easier to get started if you go with subflows. So that's why I built that application, so I could actually show you all this stuff tied together. So that's how the demo is going to go. With that. All right. Oh, and one more other thing I have up is if I open up my Chrome browser, I'm logged in here as we did. Let me zoom in as well so you can see that a little better. So Mudit is another developer working in the same application as Neha. And again, Mudit is an actual engineer, ServiceNow. He's based out of Hyderabad. The team out of Hyderabad also has done a lot of work with this as well. So, but in this case, he's another developer working in the same instance. And this is where I'm going to show you what it's like when you've got two developers working on the same file. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back over here as Neha. And I'm in a studio, and you've probably seen this. I think we've used this application in a couple of the CI/CD demonstrations on the happy hours that Andrew and Chuck have done. But it's a super simple, just example application, supply management, just to keep it simple. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and do some development and then show you that process we just went through. So as Neha, I'm a developer. First off, you can see I'm on the master branch currently. So what I'm going to want to do here is I'm just going to create a branch. So I guess we can just call this TechNow. Oh, I'll just call it a branch. So what that's going to do is it's going to create a branch locally. It's going to, and also actually it's going to create the branch in Git as well through the integration. So we're no longer on a master branch. We're actually on a TechNow Demo 1 branch. You can see here on the bottom right hand of the screen. So another thing to show here is if I go to edit repository configuration, this is what's new. One of the new in Orlando is that you can actually use a mid server to connect into your Git repository. So I'm currently just directly tied to another cloud Git repo, but this is where you could configure your instance to tie in with a mid server, so you can leverage your enterprise Git repository. Okay, so I'm going to just open up a couple of files here and make a couple of small changes. Here I got a script include. I'm just going to add another comment just to keep it simple. So making a change here to a script include, added a comment, and I'll go ahead and also open up the file settings, and we'll just make this version 4.6.0. Go ahead and save that. Okay, so I'm working in this application, and we've got, you can see I'm on this branch here, TechNow Demo 1. Made a couple of changes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in as Mudit. Okay, so here I'm in as Mudit. You can see we're on the same instance. This audit, we're all in the same branch. And I'm going to open up that script include that Neha just made a change to. And now you can see here it's read-only. Can't make any changes. And it's saying that the record is modified by Neha, but not committed to source control. So this is that collision avoidance, that collaboration piece that we were talking about earlier. So here we can actually also view differences. So you can see the differences, the changes that were made. Here's the change that was to the script. Open up this, we get a diff view, and you can see here's that TechNow demo comment that I added. So, so this is a good way to collaborate, see what each other's doing, make sure you're not stepping on each other's toes. And if I wanted to view, like say, Nehal's reaching out to Mudit, asking him for help on the script include, you could say, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and edit. You could edit in her changes. That way it's all in the same commit, and then you can edit it. All right, so back over is Neha. Neha has made her changes, done some work, and ready to commit this, and it's ready to be published over to prod. So she's done with her work. And actually, another some best practices here. Make sure you're committing early and often. The more you commit, the more often you commit, the more points in time you have, and those kind of things. So don't you want to be able to commit early and often. It's good best practice. So I'm going to go ahead and commit my changes. And here is where we have the commit screen. And you may notice if you're familiar with tying to Git before, there was these checkboxes weren't here. So this is where when we talk about selective commit, is is where you can actually select which changes get committed. In this case, we've got the script included. And again, we have this view where you can see the change that was made there. All right. And to get to that, I had clicked on this little book icon. Okay, so we'll go ahead and commit this. And I can put this comment. And this is kind of one of those things as well that DevOps Enterprise application, if you were to, there's, a lot of times if you wanted to integrate with your Agile 2.0, you could actually put in a story number and push this into Git and use that as a way to sort of tie everything together. It's pretty interesting, but that's for another day, another TechNow. Okay, so committing these changes to source control, and you can see it's been successfully committed. And that's it as far as the developer goes. The developers do the work, and then what I do is go into the production instance. So now Neha's done. She's committed her code, and she wants to put in a deployment request. So this is where it's going to come in, and I've created a record producer here. This is just a simple, what's the scope, the version. So I think it was, what was it? What version do we put in? Was it 4.6? Yeah, 4.6.0. So here I'm just entering these values. So we need to know the scope and the version and the ATF suite to run. So I'm going to go and enter those and submit. And that's it. So now Neha's done with her stuff, and now we've got Slack open. And here you can see I just got so the reason I got this message from Slack is because part of that flow we're using one of the Slack webhook activity. So that way we could make it where, maybe using Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever it might be, you can use that to collaborate. So I got a message here saying approval for the request is made. And if I go to the request, here we can see this is the supply chain application. We got the demo of the suite and everything like that. So Neha's, she had came in, so just to recap, Neha went and did some work in development. Her and Mudit did. They got done, they committed it, and they went and they submitted a request to actually deploy this to production. And now that that's happened, that gets now you might have a tech lead or a manager. It's going to go in and actually kick this pipeline off, do a review of the process, look at the code and everything like that. So now I'm logged in as my switcher personas over to a tech lead. And I'm here at the deployment request. So I've gotten the notification in Slack, and now I'm on the record, and I can review everything that's been done. And you can see these various fields here that I have things like the credentials and the URLs. I just have those as default values when one of these records gets created, because you need to know the dev instance URL, you need to know the test credentials, you need to know all this stuff. These are the values that are going to go into the flow to kick things off. All right, and I'll go back into the flow again once we're all done and show you how all these pieces fit together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and approve this. Say, okay, cool, this is good. We're gonna go move forward with this work. So here, what I want to do first before I continue on the deployment is I want to merge the branch. I want to merge the feature branch that Neha was just working on with the master branch. And then what that's going to do is then update the code in the dev instance with that master branch. So we have all the latest code from all the different teams, and then we're going to deploy that up to test and then to prod. So to merge, what I'm going to do is go into the Git repository. And here you can see we've got the TechNow demo 1, which I committed, and I'm going to go and do a new pull request. And here we can see the differences. And there we go. So create pull request. Again, I'm a tech lead right now, or a manager, one of those kind of people, but you do have to go out of ServiceNow and actually do the merging part in Git. For now, it may be something that comes up in the future where you can do it all from the instance. But for now, you do need to come into, you can see that's the message that I put in. You have to come into GitHub for this. All right, so successfully merged and closed. So we've got it's merged and closed, and now we've got a master branch that's updated with the latest code. So now we're ready to go back to this deployment record and move forward with the deployment. So here I've got this deploy button that I put in as a UI action on this form. And what that's going to do is we go to the flow designer. This flow is going to kick off when this, so the flow is already kicked right now, and I'll show that to you. Let me open up the executions here. But what's going to happen is it's waiting for the wait for condition. So once it's approved, now it's waiting for this thing to be deployed when I want to hit deploy. And so if we go to executions, we'll go ahead and open up that current. This is the current flow instance that's running. So this thing kicked off automatically once I created that deployment record. And again, these flows in that form, I'll put all that on share so everybody can use it if you're interested in checking it out. So far what we've had, we created the request, and then you saw the Slack message that got posted. The approval, you saw the approval that I approved. And once it was approved, it's come in here and it's waiting. Now we're waiting for the condition for it to actually be changed over to deploy. So here I'm going to go back to request and hit deploy. So now what that's done is it's changed the state to ready to deploy, and now the flow is going to kick off. And what we're going to see next is what's going to happen now is once that flow kicks off, it's going to update dev with the master, right? And then from dev, it's going to publish it to the app repo. And then from the app repo, it's going to get installed onto this test instance that I have open here. And then it's going to run this ATF. Now, if you'll notice that if I go back to Studio, you can see now it's back on master. The reason that happened is because what it just did was it updated the dev instance with the master code. That way we could publish it up to test. Just keep in mind, the process that I'm showing you here is just an example. All our customers have completely different environments, completely different processes. So that's why we open it up, put the spokes out there, the REST APIs, so that way our customers can follow the process they have now. So this is like what I'm showing you is just an example. So here you see the ATF about ready to kick off here. It's just a super simple ATF. That's just to keep it fast for the demonstration. But so once that runs, and now successful, now what it's going to do is it's going to actually install this onto prod. So we've just did development, we've committed it to Git, and now we're automating the entire process from taking it from dev to test, doing ATF tests and tests, and now it's going to actually automatically publish it to production. So I'm going to come back here into production, and let's just take a look at the applications. So here we can see that, here it is. So right now it's 4.5, and it just changed to 4.6. So there we go. We've just essentially automated the entire deployment process from dev test to prod, running a TF test. This is a very simple example, but we've just essentially automated that entire process. Whereas before, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, using update sets to migrate from one to the next and doing it all manually and having to keep track of all that stuff. So big improvements here. Let's go back to the flow. Sometimes it takes a little bit for this to refresh what's actually going on, but this thing's already completed. I'm just waiting for this all to go green so I can show you what all the status looks like. All right. Funny because you saw, we saw it all actually happen sometime. So it's actually so fast the Flow Designer status page has to keep up. So,
Chris, while we're waiting for that, we do have a question in the Q&A panel, and I don't know if I missed this while I was answering some other questions, but did you show where the message comes up and says, "Hey, Neha is already working on this," when Mudit was trying to work on it, or some of that conflict management?
I did. Okay. We can see this all completed here on the screen, but I'll show that real quick. That's real easy to. So here, if I go back to, so here's Neha, and if I made a quick change, yeah, we showed this earlier, but I'll just show it really quick again, just to make sure everybody's. So here, I'll just put another change there and save that. Okay, so Neha's made a change on the supply-based script include. Now I'm going to go in my Chrome browser. This is Mudit. same instance, but different user. I'll open up the script include, and now you can see it is read only. And it's because we need how to make change, but not committed to source control. So that's that. Does that help? Is that
Perfect. Yep.
awesome? Cool. Okay. All right. So Flow Designer. All right. So the status is all up to date here. So you can see we had the wait for condition. So what happened here is we had the changes were applied from source control. And what that means is that the dev instance was updated with what was in source control. So I did the merge in source control and Git. And then what I've done here with this activity is pull those changes from master, because you may have, in real world, you may have other teams on other instances that are also doing their work on the application and their own branches. So the master branch is that's the single source of your code. So we updated it with that first, made sure that all worked okay. And then what we do is from dev, we publish it. So we publish the application to your company's app store, App Repo. And once that publication is done, it's installed the application on the test. So we published it to the App Repo. So now we can actually install it directly on test. So that's what this step did. And then here we ran the ATF test. And here you can see you can go in here and you have access to the results and all that good stuff. And then once the test passed, we actually installed it onto prod. And you can see it's using all those values that we had. If I open up this form that I created, the reason I have all these is because you need this. You need the dev instance URL and you need the credentials to be able to do this pipeline. So that's how I'd set this up. So all I can do is just open up the Flow Designer here, and we can just take a little bit of a deeper dive into what happened. So you saw the Slack message get posted in, and that's just a message that I put in for that. And also want to say that this is there's no code here. I didn't write this whole flow you're looking at here. I didn't write a single line of code. So I was able to automate an entire pipeline from developing to testing to all the way to production without having to write any code. And a lot of that's thanks to, I know you've had Josh on the show before, and him and Chris Moy and Jake Berman's team. They've done such an awesome job with this. And then engineers, it's Orlando. I think it's I don't know. In my opinion, it's basically surpassed the old school workflow. It's just a lot of fun to put this stuff together, and it's super intuitive. So here, if you look at the applied changes from source control, you can see where I've just had to get the instance URL, the credentials, the scope, and the branch name, and I've just taken all of those. I've taken all of those from that deployment record that I created and just put it in here. So. And they're all essentially the same thing. You just define the instance, the credentials, and the scope. If we look at ATF, we've defined the instance and the credentials of the test instance, and then also the test suite name. So that's how the ATF test ran. And if it passed, because we have the test suite status, so we've gotten the data from this activity, and we're able to use it in this one, as long as it's successful. Then we go ahead and install into production. And then we update the record as close complete. So that's the process for that. And again, these are all using these spokes that have come out. And again, this is what you get out of the box here. These spokes you get out of the box. So you can build a flow like I did here in this example. So it's pretty awesome. And then, so what I've shown you was the IntegrationHub example using IntegrationHub, so that way you don't have to use third-party tools to automate your ServiceNow. And this isn't to automate anything other than ServiceNow. This is just strictly ServiceNow deployment process. But a lot of our customers have big DevOps shops, and they really want to be able to use their own third-party tool like Jenkins and Travis CI and those kind of things to run this process. So in order to allow our customers to do that, we built scripted REST APIs. So I'll just come back here into the dev instance, and we'll just go to REST API Explorer. I'll just show you some of the examples of the scripted REST APIs. And these are what you would leverage in order to build a pipeline in, say, Jenkins, like I said. So here, I'll just go into the namespace of SNCI/CD. And now we've got these APIs. So I've got, for example, ATF solution. So you can see you've got the different, so if I want to start ATF suite, this is the same concept you saw in IntegrationHub. This is just leveraging REST, scripted REST APIs. I just enter the test suite name, all those good things. And this is where you come if you want to use REST to integrate with third-party tools. So I've got like plugins, get the app repo. So, publish app to app repo, roll back application to the prior version. So all that functionality you have using REST, you can do that as long as the application you want to use does that. So we have another example we've shown, I believe. So when the surf team shows the now and now at knowledge 20, they actually use Jenkins to publish all of that workflow, because they use Jenkins for everything else. So they decided to use Jenkins as their CI/CD orchestration tool. So pretty cool stuff there.
And one thing I noticed about the REST APIs is there's one to get the status of the operation. So if you say, go retrieve this branch or go install this from GitHub, it takes time to do that. It says 10%, 20%, just like the status bar. You have to continually poll that if you want to know when it's done. If your API or your third-party application is doing things synchronously and you have to wait for that Git operation to be done, simply firing off the REST API is going to say, go start it, but you can also tell when it needs to be done with the API that you've got on there. So there's some of these things that are complementary to each other, and you want to know about if you have the interest of going in it through the REST APIs. So take a look at those.
Right.
Got time for some Q&A?
Got time for some Q&A? Anybody have any questions?
Question from the Q&A is, can we deploy directly from a branch and not deploy all changes from master?
Yes, you can do it from the branch. So if I go back here to Flow Designer, and so whenever we're publishing, let's say, so apply applications from source control, here you can declare the branch. So you declare which branch, so you can choose a branch. What I did was I just used master by default. So if I come into the, let's go to the pull request here. Again, this is my custom application built here, but so here I've used, so you see this is a Git branch field that I created. So I've just put master in here. I could have put any other branch that I wanted here, and it would have used that branch to install onto the next instance.
Easy to configure. Typically, love it.
Yeah, super easy. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, usually people will, if you're deploying to production, you'll usually deploy something off the master branch, but like I said, everybody's processes are different. That's why we've opened it up. So whatever branch you want. The nice thing is you can actually use a master branch now. You can merge, and you can actually do that now. That's something that before Orlando you couldn't do. So, yeah.
All right. We have scoped apps, we have global apps, and we also have global scoped apps. Without going deep into what they are and how you set them up and everything, you can create a globally scoped app. Does this work with global scoped apps?
This does. So here, and if you're not familiar, there's a setting in sysproperties that you set to where you can actually build a global scoped app. So when you do that, the one thing that you can't do. So here, I'll just example scope global app. I'll just go ahead and create this real quick for all right, continue in advance, just to show you the difference. So once I open that app up, you'll notice that the source control menu is gone. So I can't hook this into source control anymore, but I can publish it. So I can still use the CI/CD APIs. I can still publish it to another instance. I can run ATF on it. I can do that whole pipeline. The one thing I can't do yet until Paris is actually use Git source control. I can't use that part with global yet. And that's should be coming in Paris. So But if you want to be able to, we've got the link. It's in our documentation. We can include that in the description as well. A link to the because it's not super easy to find, but to be able to create that application, like what I did here is I've got this so I can create a scope or global out of the box.
Yep.
It's not like this. There's just properties, so we can actually.
Yeah, I think there's a property and a plugin, if I'm not mistaken, but we've got it documented.
Yeah, got it documented, so we can give the link. We can provide the link to that because that's a pretty big one. Because some people think that you can't use global at all for this stuff. That's not the case. You just can't use it for the source control.
Okay, like scheduled ATF currently, is there a need to open a browser window somewhere, or is that handled on the platform somewhere? So when you triggered ATF in the flow, you still need to have ATF up and running the client test runner somewhere.
Yeah, I think you have to have it if it's a UI, because if it's a server-based test only, I don't think you have to have it open. But for a UI test, you do still have to have it open browser. I know that's in the backlog. One of the things that we're, when I was on the product management team working on this stuff, we're definitely looking to make it where you could, open up. It would be like a headless browser, and do that in the background without having to have this open. So, but yeah, it's good to ask that question. And the more requests we get for that, the higher in the priority that goes up for development. So I'll give that feedback back to the product team and let them know people are asking about that, because that's something we've been looking at for a while. So, yeah.
All right. Quick one for you. Can this support more than one test instance?
Oh, yes. It can support as many. You mean as far as like, let's see, if you're talking about a parallel test, I'm not sure about that situation, but you can have as many instances as you want. So, some of our customers have 20 plus instances, like multiple dev instances. I got a test, a QA, all that different kind of stuff. You have as many of those as you want. You can create your own flow here to incorporate as many instances as you need. So I don't see any reason why not. The only scenario I'm not sure of is like I said, parallel testing, and I was kind of sure how that would go. But definitely you can use this more than one test, more than one dev, and even more than one prod. Just doesn't matter how many instances.
All right, I'm not going to hog this. If Jeremy and Craig have a favorite they want to throw out there, we still have a few more minutes.
I don't have anything other than I think this is pretty cool. Very nice.
All right.
Very good demo.
Chris, I think we're done with the screen share. Again, if we didn't get to your question, we will answer those and get those in the community and link back to those. So you'll get a response for that. Thank you very much. And with that, I think we've got, what are the key takeaways, Chris?
Takeaways. Well, key takeaway here is that, definitely if you want to use this stuff, upgrade to Orlando as soon as possible, because that's where this stuff starts. And this is really going to change the way our customers are able to deploy, really giving an option to be agile, doing that, multiple releases a day if you want, or just being able to be as agile as you want. So this is, I'm really looking forward to this. This is something that I think all of us here are passionate about. And I think I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes forward. But yeah, that's, I hope that, what we covered today, we covered developing in a dev instance and being able to go in development and then deploy that through a process of testing and all that good stuff, and all the way up to production. And yeah, like we mentioned before, you got the DevOps enterprise application that you have in the store that you can have, where this ties together, so you can incorporate your change processes and those kind of things with this. You're able to use change management. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how creative our customers go with this stuff. So, yeah.
Definitely a game changer. All right. Quick reference information if you haven't already thought about it. We've got all this stuff documented on docs.servicenow.com. If you've got questions, please post them in the community. Lots and lots of experts out there, including some of the people that are on this webinar. We'll jump in and have that discussion. And if we can't find the answer, if we don't have the answer, we'll find somebody who knows. The developer site, as we already mentioned, is out there. We've got lots and lots of great content there. This is episode 74 of TechNow. We've been doing this for over 7 years? 7 years now. Oh my gosh. It's
yeah, surprise.
So encourage you to look at the bit.ly link there. Go back and look at some of the content we've got. It still works. All the content we've got from previous shows. Granted, the product has matured a little bit, but we can do this. And then the Success Center, as mentioned before. Again, Q&A. If we didn't get your question, apologies. We didn't get it live, but we will be answering these afterwards and posting those back to the community. So thank you very much for that. Chris, we thank you most awesomely for joining us today on to show us the Now Platform CI/CD stuff.
Oh, thank you, Chuck, and thank you for all the help you've given me in my career with this TechNow. Definitely go back to those old videos quite often.
I do too. It's not just you. All right. With that, thank you, Jeremy and Craig, for handling things in the background. We look forward to more content from you in the future and at Knowledge. So till then, take care, everybody. Bye.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.